Hello there, and welcome to the Puffin podcast. I'm your host, Jake Thomas, and sitting here beside me is Kita, the elk hound. Man, this week has been a lot of stuff, a lot of good things going on. Um, my first day at work this week, we had an earthquake, and it totally did not register as an earthquake to me when it happened. Like, I felt it, but I didn't associate it as being an earthquake when it happened. Because, so we, it like shook, like we could really feel it where I was. And so I'm sitting at the dispatch console, and like I felt my chair like moved like a couple inches. Like, I was like sitting there, and then like I was a few inches to the right of where I was, and like I felt it move, and like I noticed my consoles kind of shake, but my mind did not realize that it was an earthquake happening. What I thought is it happened, and I was just like, "Oh man, we're getting some good rolls. There must be some good waves right now." And then I sat for a couple of seconds. I was like, "Wait a second, I'm not on a boat right now." And then I was like, "Oh, we just had an earthquake." And I was like, it's been years since I've been underway with the Coast Guard. So I was like, just kind of crazy how, even though it's been years, like I get that feeling like I did when we'd get into some good rocking motion on the seas, and my mind still automatically associates that's what's happening, and it doesn't associate that I'm on land and it's not supposed to be happening. And so that was kind of funny in my mind. I was like, oh man. And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm not thinking anything's going on. And everyone around was like, kind of like in shock because they're like, is there going to be a tsunami warning or not? And it seemed like it took a lot longer than usual for the Tsunami Warning Center to get us the message on whether or not there was going to be a tsunami alert for us, which there was no tsunami danger from that earthquake, which is good. That's always a good thing. It seems to be my luck whenever there is an earthquake when I'm working. There's not tsunami danger. There's no tsunami alert. It's always the ones that happen when I'm off duty that we end up having a tsunami warning. I don't know why that is. I consider myself lucky. I don't want to have to deal with doing the whole tsunami warning thing. But yeah, I just kind of found that interesting that, I felt it like I actually moved and I didn't register as an earthquake. My mind just shifted back to being underway with the Coast Guard and thinking, oh, it's just we're getting into some waves here. But no, I was on land, haven't been underway in years, and yeah, I just found that kind of chuckle that my mind just thought I was underway again. And so that was just kind of funny. And then another day this week, I was doing a little bit of cleaning and I was going through old notebooks of mine and I found a little sketch I did for a blog that I used to run, and it's one of my favorite sketches that I've done. It's basically these two crawfish sitting in a cast iron pot over a fire, and the water's boiling, and they're being boiled to be eaten. But the crawfish are sitting there. One's laying back, drinking his beer, and the other one's got a beer in one hand, a martini glass, daiquiri glass, whatever you want to call it, in the other hand. And they're just hanging out in the pot, having a grand old time. And then it says, whatever boils your crawfish, which I got the idea for this one from a song called Whatever Boils Your Crawfish. And So I was like, oh man, I like that saying. Because I used to always say, whatever floats your boat. And it's basically the same premise, the two sayings. And so I was like, oh man, I'm going to make a drawing about that. But, when I look at it, and this is kind of like what I talked about on the blog post when I initially made it a few years ago, is there's really multiple ways you can look at this. On the surface, you just see these two crawfish, look like they're having a party, they're having a good time, enjoying themselves. But when you look into it, they're kind of being carefree and not aware of their surroundings. They're actually, in their last moments of life. They're being boiled, they're getting ready to be eaten. But, they don't see that. They're just living their carefree life, and that carefree life has led them eventually to their demise. But on the flip side, you could also look at it as, they know it. They know that, eventually they're going to be eaten, but they don't take that as a, hey, be down in gloom, let's, just roll over and give up. They see it as, hey, you know what, this is part of life, we're going to enjoy life, even though we know eventually it's going to end. So even though they're having this hard time, they're still like, hey, we can still have a good time in the hard time. And so that's just kind of one of those interesting little sketches I did. It's a fun, wholesome sketch, but at the same time, you can look into it multiple ways, get different meanings out of it, but ultimately it is just a fun little sketch to have fun with. But it can also show, optimistic and pessimistic views at once. And yeah, it's just something that I had a lot of fun with, and I was glad to find that drawing again. And with that, I got into some good conversations with people at work, and I got an idea for another little funny sketch drawing like that I want to do. I don't know when I'll get around to it. I'm still kind of throwing it around in my head how I want to do it, but based on a saying that I came up with at work. So we say a lot of times sunshine is more potent than moonshine. And basically where I got that idea was a couple summers ago. It's like every day we were getting like these ridiculous calls. Like people were like, not committing crimes, but like people were getting in a lot of situations where they needed, help. And it's like our call volume was highly increased. And we're like, what has gotten into people? Like, why are, we having this influx in calls? And coincidentally, that summer was also a very beautiful summer. Like, there was a lot less rain than usual, and it was sunny almost every day. Like, here it rains a lot, and when it doesn't rain, it's cloudy. So to have this overabundance of sunshine, encourage a lot more people to get out, but at the same time, there's more people out. And so people just get overly excited about, being able to go out and do stuff outdoors more. And so that kind of, caused the influx of calls, because a lot of it was, ATV accidents, people getting lost hiking, those kinds of things. And I was like, well, I mean, the sun's out. And so I just, on a whim, was like, sunshine's more potent than moonshine. And so we kind of use that saying a lot around the department sometimes. But, I mean, it is, when you think about it. And the reason that came up in conversation at work the other day is because one of the officers telling me this story about him and one of his buddies catching this supposedly 100-pound halibut out of their kayak, and he didn't have his halibut gaff with him because he had never caught halibut out of the spot they were at. And then he was going to shoot it, but he didn't have he forgot to repack his firearm from the night before or something. And so they ended up having to basically like work together to paddle this thing back to shore. And then he ended up jumping on its back, trying to get it actually onto the shore. And I'm just like, dude, what possessed y'all to even do this? Because I guess the weather wasn't even really the best for going kayaking. It was kind of choppy, so it's kind of questionable to even go out. And he was like, oh, the sun was out, so we thought we'd do something. And so that brought us back to sunshine is more potent than moonshine. And so that's always just been a funny but accurate saying that we've had around the department. And I've actually kind of adopted it. I think it's, a cool little saying. And it makes a lot of sense, especially here. I don't know, other places may be the same, but think about it. Next time you're out in a, extra nice day with an overabundance of sun, and you've, especially after like a good rainy period, you might be thinking you're going to go do something a little more exciting than you have. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something to keep in mind. And so sunshine is more potent than moonshine. Remember it, think about it. So that's something we say a lot, and it always brings up laughs when we think about it, especially when we start thinking back about a lot of the calls we had. Because there was a few calls that summer that were just overly ridiculous and will always be ingrained in our minds. And so I kind of want to do a drawing based off that saying. I'm not too sure what it's going to come out like, though. I got a couple different ideas bouncing around my head, so kind of want to just throw those around, see what happens. But, it'll be fun once I do put something on paper and get a good concrete design on it. But that might take a little longer because, that's my personal saying, and so I want to make sure I have it crafted, the design to go with it crafted exactly how I want. But I'm excited for that. And, that's going to do it for this week. I hope everyone has a good week this week. Hope y'all had a good week last week. And if you enjoyed the show, please give me a follow on Twitter or Instagram. Check me out on YouTube as well. I do Sharpie drawings of my Puffin on there. If you want to listen on there, that's a great option. And you can see the time-lapse videos of those drawings. Or if not, just listen like you are now. And check out the Instagram page. All those drawings make it up on there, along with, just general photos of life. So, give me a follow there. And I'll catch you guys next week.